welcome to another edition of the Buck Stops Here. I'm your host, Hound Dog Buck 50, the illest battle rapper in the game. On this episode, I'm not by myself. I got some friends with me.
It's your boy, OP, aka Trev.
Oh, and this is your boy JG.
It's a pleasure hanging out with you guys. As you know, I do my podcasting by myself, but I figured I'd liven it up by adding some friends into the conversation. Now, before we got a topic, but before we get into that, I'd just like to be like, how y'all been doing, period, with all this pandemic and all that stuff going on.
Well, I mean the pandemic, it kind of messed your life up a little bit. Not really mess you up, but you just had to do a lot of adjustment. But all in all, man, I'm here.
What about you, Jay?
Well, to piggyback off what Trev was saying, it's about the same. I was essential worker, we was out there actually working with Stoneman Douglas, doing the electrical in that building, so I was a quote-unquote essential worker. So yeah, I was out there every day of the pandemic. I haven't had any days off, so through the grace of God, been lucky enough to stay healthy, and my family's been healthy, so it's been a blessing. I really can't complain. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much like same thing, working, and I had recently had contracted COVID. I don't know how. A lot of people in my house had came down with it, but thankfully nobody was, sickly like that. I was out for a couple of weeks, but I wasn't bedridden or nothing. I was just doing me, just exercising and staying away until it was time to go back to work.
Right.
But it wasn't. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna say that. I respect it. I respect COVID in the sense that I'm not reckless, but I'm not. I don't know. My life ain't really changed now.
Well, that's a blessing, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. I think people have allowed this pandemic to change them, to change the totality of how they live. And my thing that with me is that I know it's out there. I know this thing is out there, but I think we allow the media to put us in such a doghouse and have a lot of people so frightened about it that most people are afraid to live their lives. Which you have to be cautious, but I don't think you should let it put you in a doghouse.
I look at it kind of like it's weird too, because when you see certain things like this, like recently they had a fight with Canelo and in Dallas, and the stadium was still capacity. So they say Dallas don't have no restrictions on the social distance, but my whole thing is what makes Dallas so different than all of the other places.
Yeah, and this is why I'm so confused. They paint this picture of COVID-19 to be so dangerous, but now you have certain states that want to lift the mask restriction, which I'm kind of confused about it now. If you know that we don't have this thing under control, why would you allow us to go back to our regular lives without this mask and put us back at risk? So it's a lot of questions I have about it. Like I said, I know it's out there, but is it as contagious as they say it is? I don't believe that, because even with these masks, I don't think that mask protects us the way they say it does.
I don't think so either. Because my first thought was, I said, well, okay, maybe it was one of those things where they saying everybody in the stadium, if they're vaccinated, they can go to this fight like a special thing. But then I found out it wasn't that. They just saying it ain't. So I'm like, okay, it's like a contradiction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And to go back to that, like what Jay saying, he was an essential worker, and I was an essential worker as well. I was a bread vendor. I delivered to these stores on a daily basis. I had people coughing over me, people touching me, people reaching me. I'm inside Publix, Medici, Target, Walmart, delivering bread. And I never once came up with COVID. I never once tested positive for COVID. So, man, for them to, bring out these vaccinations, and they really don't understand this virus, disease, whatever it is, whatever they call it. It's like, how can you give us a vaccine and you don't even know exactly what this virus does and how you really contract it? So I'm just kind of on the edge about it, and just trying to figure out what it really is that they're doing. I'm not going through this conspiracy theory thing, but it just makes me question our government with this whole thing.
Now, from a social life standpoint, I mean, you guys. I mean, I know I'm single. Y'all single?
Yeah.
Do you feel like it stagnated your pursuit? Not to say that you got to be pursuing something, but did it kind of make you feel more awkward as far as hollering at females when all this was first jumping off?
Nah, not me, because I look back, shit. You know, when Magic got AIDS, we was still fucking. You feel me? So this really didn't stop my sexual lifestyle, because it is what it is. We use protection. I'm not gonna let this scare me worse than HIV did. So I still wanted to have my life. I wanted to be in control of my life. I didn't want this thing to be in control of my life. So I mean, I kept going by my own lifestyle. I've never been a reckless person when it comes to sex anyway, but I want to live my life. I want to live my life, and if anything was going to control my life, it was going to be me. I wasn't going to let this COVID control my life.
Personally, well, that's that question. No, because during the pandemic, a couple of my close friends, or I would say brothers, that's your question. Well, first off, yeah, I'm currently involved, but how that affected me in a sense, well, my partner, she doesn't live in the state of Florida. She actually lives outside the state, so it's affected us in the sense of once they put, no travel restrictions and whatnot. She used to travel at least every other month, but in fact, she couldn't do that. So yeah, it put some stress on the relationship in a sense because you don't have that physical aspect of the relationship already, and due to the fact that now it's even if you want to travel to see your mate, you can't do that now. So now it's kind of like you gotta make do with the way things are. In terms of like social gatherings, as I was saying, I had a couple of friends. They put on some get-togethers, and we took all the necessary precautions to make sure that everybody was safe and had a good time because there are some small businesses out there who rely on these events to get their product out there, to get their name out there. And as we all know, once everything was kind of shut down, everything pretty much was locked up. So if you didn't have, the ability to send your product over the internet or whatever the case may be, there was really no face-to-face interaction. So, they took it upon themselves to set up those gatherings so people, the small business owners, could get, their product out there so we can, know about, all the different vendors and so on and so forth. But for the most part, I was living for the most part. I took necessary precautions when it first broke. I mean, I probably was one of them where maybe it wasn't taken as serious as it should have been taken, but once we saw, the casualties of it,
yeah.
I mean, me personally, it scared me somewhat because we didn't really get a really good reading on what were, the symptoms and what you would be experiencing. Some people would have different symptoms, and then they would say some people could be carriers of it.
Yeah.
It's have no symptoms, but then they can transmit it or pass it on to you.
Yeah.
So it could be just the smallest thing, like you could have just a pain in your chest or whatever, and then you're like, oh, is it this or is it that?
Yeah.
So, but to answer your question, everything pretty much was pretty much the same, but with a lot more precaution. The washing of the hands and stuff that we should be doing anyway. We just made sure to pay more attention to it now because it could be the difference between living or becoming very sick or making one of your loved ones sick.
Yeah, because I ain't gonna lie, it had me scared at first, The news had me scared, man, It had me to the point where I was being so protective of myself, man. Like, I would wear a condom and a mask while I was masturbating. So, yeah. In my own home. So,
I wasn't ready for that curveball. I didn't even step up to the mountain yet.
So, yeah, I had to, protect myself as well, because, coming home, like you said, you couldn't really have contact with a lot of people, so I was gonna have some type of sexual endeavors with myself, so I had to protect myself as well.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
So masturbation, I was very protected. Mask, the G9, what was the mask called?
or the N9 or something like
N9,
that.
yeah, N19.
That was the one that looked like
N9.
Cyborg.
Yeah,
and all that.
yeah.
It looked like he was going under
Yeah.
fumigation.
Yeah, and I was, the lambskin condoms, like, they protect us. So, you gotta be
Amen to that.
precautionary measures.
The wow.